How did the colonialists destroy the African economy? Before looking at how the economy of Africa was annihilated, we must first look at the economic situation of Europe during the mid-15th century. Now, the capitalist order in Europe was the order of the highest level of inequality, which is based on private property ownership. And those who own no property had only their labor power. The peasants, that is the laborers, were paid wages only for food in order to come back the next day and work. The owners of private property became the ruling class and were called the bourgeoisies. This is a wealthy class that controlled the means of production. Now, in the year 1848, the German radical philosopher, in the person of Karl Marx, penned down a revolutionary prophecy of an inevitable violent social revolution that will bring down the capitalist system in his book titled The Communist Manifesto. Karl Marx said that the history of all hitherto existing societies is the history of class struggle. This shows that there is a class struggle over who will control the means of production in Europe. It shows that a revolution was boiling in Europe due to excessive exploitation. The proletariats, that is the propertyless class, the peasants, the laborers, the poor people, they were so exploited in Europe by the bourgeoisies. The poor class in Europe were calling for a violent social change, a change that will collapse the exploitative system, which is capitalism. Now, to avert the boiling revolution, that is to prevent the revolution not to occur in Europe, European politicians, through colonialism, exploited the African economy in order to improve the working conditions of the poor people in Europe. The resources in Africa were cheaply bought. In some cases, they were forcefully taken and sold back to Africans in an exorbitant price. This process kept African economy as dependent economy till today. Africans became primary producers, while the Europeans became secondary producers. We still cannot refine our resources, rather we appreciate imported finished products. This is known as dependency. Therefore, dependency is the process whereby the economy of certain countries, that is African countries, are tied to the growth and development of European economy. The more Africa is underdeveloped, the more Africa is poor and backward, the more the European economy will develop. As students of history and economy, we must understand that the African economy was integrated into the international capitalist system of Europe. They destroyed our local currencies that we had, and they introduced their European currencies. Because of this, our African brothers were frustrated to pick up European jobs in order to get the new currency, which is the European currency. A professor from the University of Port Harcourt in Nigeria, in the person of late Claude Ake, posited that the British pounds became so pervasive on the economy of West African countries through every means. They even established their European banks to facilitate this process. Their European currencies tied our local currencies to their economy. They built roads and established infrastructures, not really to develop the Africans, but to facilitate their exploitation of the African natural resources. In Nigeria, for instance, all the roads and railways that were built in the northern, western, and eastern part of Nigeria were built to exploit the groundnut in the north, the cocoa in the west, and the palm oil in the east. Their missionary churches were working closely with these European colonialists in order to keep Africans mentally dumb with the application of Bible verses. Did you know that Africans were mentally and economically exploited? The fact is that the European Christian missionaries told Africans in Congo and in other African countries to cherish and embrace poverty They told Africans that it is very easy for a poor man to make heaven than a rich man. Africans were made to be stagnated, both mentally and physically, because of the greed of the slave masters and colonialists. We should wake up and know and understand our untold history.